Welcome to Pitch Lab. Today we're going to talk about 5 tips for scaling a distributed sales team. Not an in-house sales team where you have a sales floor, but distributed sales team where you got salespeople all over the nation or maybe all over the world. Here are your 5 tips. Tip number 1, you need a sales playbook. Tip number 2, you need a sales culture of accountability. Tip number 3, you need to know how to hire for drive. Not skill, but hire for drive, intrinsic motivation. Number 4, you need to have the ability to remove distractions. Anything that's taking up a salesperson's time outside of selling, you need to get rid of it so they can focus on selling. And number 5, sometimes it's great to hire from within. Sometimes you need to bring in outside talent. Let's dive deeper on all 5 of these. If you are a CEO, founder, or a sales leader, want to scale your distributed sales team, this video is for you. Let's dive in. Based on lessons we learned, this is from stuff we did right and stuff we did wrong. What's up, Zach?
What's going on, Jay? How are we, brother?
Good, man. Glad you're back for another video. Tip number 1, sales playbook. Why the heck do you need a playbook, Zach?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is understanding exactly what you're doing within your sales team. Most of the time, that playbook is going to be stuff that's come from the past. And especially if you're a brand new sales team or trying to build out a sales team, you need to get with your senior salespeople. You need to get with the people who know what's actually going down on the ground floor, right? And being able to apply that, because more than likely, if your senior salespeople are bringing in a lot of revenue and they're being able to help you out, you're going to need to apply that to everybody else. And the thing is if you're starting from scratch, you have nowhere to go. So the only people to go to are the ones that are bringing in the revenue. So I would say you need to start with a playbook to get all your people bought in.
Brilliant. And we've seen that, right? If every time you open up a new market, that salesperson is reinventing the wheel, there's no way to share wins. There's no way to share success stories. You're wasting a ton of time. When you have an actual playbook, plays that actually work, you're going to be able to set up those markets. You're going to be able to get scale a lot quicker. If you want to learn how to write a sales playbook like 90% faster using AI, I'm going to put a link to that video in the comments below there. All right. So, and one last thing, the last piece is sometimes you get those guys or gals that know what they're doing and they don't want to give up the information because they want to be important. They want people to call them. Great. Yep. I get it. But we have to take that away and we have to make that something that is knowledge for all so we can stand up these markets quickly and this distributed sales force can get going quickly. We can't have a bottleneck. Okay, you're a new hire. Please call Beth and she'll explain everything to you. It just doesn't work. That's not how you scale.
Right.
All right. Number 2, your number 2 tip, my founders and CEOs. If you want to scale a distributed sales team, it's all about accountability. We got another video about accountability, you and I, Zach, but when you're creating a culture of accountability, specifically a humane culture of accountability, what are some of the things you need right off the top of your head?
Yeah, I think even as I spoke in the last video, right? Like you need people that are going to be great managers. And really, you need to make sure that you have a second line of defense is what you really could call it, right? There's somebody between a director, there's a manager, and then you've got those account managers, right? You need somebody in the middle who's going to be able to have those conversations, right? I even mentioned in the last video as well that these people may not be the greatest at sales, but you know that they're great leaders and they're respected within the sales, your sales org. So that accountability aspect is having that middle line of defense and making sure that there's somebody to go to rather than trying to go up to a director where somebody's going to end up having a team of 15, where if we can break that down into smaller teams, you're going to see a lot better results in the end.
Perfect. That's it. So culture of accountability means number 1, you got the right sales organization structure, the right org structure where there's a manager to 8 salespeople's max. Number 2, that manager, we do not recommend the player coach where the manager is also the salesperson. That'll work temporarily. That's not a long-term fix. Number 3, you got to run those one-on-ones. The reason why a manager should only have 8 salespeople is because they need to run the one-on-ones. And then the last thing is, what are the KPIs? What are the metrics? And how are we watching that? That's awesome. All right, let's move to number 3. Let's talk about hiring. Hiring for drive. You're trying to quickly scale a distributed sales team. Sometimes you're just trying to get butts in seats. Let's talk about that. What do we really got to do when it comes to hiring salespeople that you can't look over their shoulder and be there with them all day, every day?
Yeah. So I think I had a little bit of a leg up right out of college. I worked at a staffing agency, so looked at resumes like the entire time. But as you continue to move on, right, and as you continue to grow within a sales organization, and myself became head of sales, one of the biggest things that I really got from like leadership books and stuff is somebody's why, right? Why do they get up in the morning? What is their purpose, right? And it could be anything. It could be money motivated. It could be their family, but really it's like they have to understand their identity of who they are, right? Put their egos out the way and understand why they're getting up every single day and having a purpose driven opportunity where they're able to continue to work day in and day out when things get tough, when things are not going their right way, right? And having that drive. I always told people I always looked for things like integrity, hustle, and then the last one was always drive. And you'd be surprised where people think drive and hustle are the same thing, but they're actually not. And I'll let you guys look at the definitions of those.
That's really good, really good. So for me, when I think of drive, I think of things like they're competitive, they have a need to achieve no matter what role they're in, no matter with what company, they have that need to achieve. And I think they're also optimistic, right? They're looking at the bright side. They're able to keep moving, like you said, through a ton of challenges. It's funny. It's like the better you can do on the hiring to hire for that intrinsic motivators and drive, the less you need to worry about accountability. So they're one and the same. The challenge and the pitfall is, oh my God, we just got this round of funding, or oh my God, we got to scale quick. It's like, just hire anybody, right? Like, oh, this person, oh, yep, they have some tangential industry experience. You're hired, let's go. It seems like a quick fix. It seems like a good idea, but that's always going to bite you 6 to 8 months down the road when then you're trying to put the squeeze on everybody with accountability. You're not getting the results you want. Hiring for a distributed sales team and hiring quickly is really a difficult thing.
I was just going to say, I think one of the biggest things that, especially new companies and startups really get wrong is hiring very fast. Hire slow and really put the people through different processes. Obviously, that's some people won't agree with that, but trying to understand the purpose and what they're doing every single day, right, will really find you the right people.
Awesome. All right, this next one, this is another one I see all the time, but we have a salesperson standing up a new market. You need to get out there and sell. And now we need you to get out there and do account management. And now we need you to do customer service. And now we need you to do market, right? It's like the more you're giving that salesperson to do, the more tasks that are getting piled on her or him, it turns into distractions. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, how come you don't have enough leads? How come you don't have, you're not moving these things through the pipeline? How come we don't have enough revenue? Well, the average salesperson, the more stuff you keep piling on her or him, the worse it's going to get. And you really need to remove those distractions. What have you seen in that arena where all of a sudden that salesperson is a jack of all trades?
Yeah. I mean, the big thing about the distractions is you're hiring a salesperson to do a salesperson job, and that is to sell, and that is to bring in revenue, right? That is their one responsibility. I can get it from a company that's growing, but in our shoes, we've seen it, right? When you have distractions like messing with the accounting, calling customers to get money, right? Like doing other things. We talked in our other video that they need to be they need to be calling, bringing in opportunities, and then closing those opportunities. They're not able to do all of that if they're having to check on the accounting aspect, right? Reach out to the marketing team. Like basically a sales is going to be revenue generating. Let them generate revenue and let them remove any distractions to where their only focus is selling.
Absolutely. And again, I know it's hard for companies that, don't have a huge amount of money for salary, but the quicker you can specialize those roles within that market, the quicker you can create, this is your job specifically, and remove those distractions, the better results you're going to get. All right. And let's talk about, I think this is let's talk about our last one, infuse outside talent. So what a lot of fast growing companies want to do is they want to promote from within. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Retention is a real thing. Yep. So we got to give people opportunities to grow. We got to keep promoting from within. However, where the real storm comes from is if you didn't do a good enough job hiring in the first place, you're only promoting from within, you get to a certain point and you're in this echo chamber. What are you seeing with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of goes back to the playbook aspect, right? Like if you're continuing to hire from within and you're trying to promote, it kind of can ruin a lot of the stuff that we already talked about, right? So One, it can mess up the playbook because your people are not doing what they need to be doing correctly. So then you're trying to get that out to everybody else, and it's causing issues across the board. You're gonna have a hard time promoting the middle management if you've got people that aren't doing things correctly. So then eventually that's going to continue to trickle down. So there's an aspect of hiring outside talent, right, where somebody may not know exactly what your product is or what they're doing, but if you're hiring the way we were just talking about for drive, you're hiring for people who have a purpose, right? They want to go do things. They're going to be able to learn it very quickly. And then not to mention, they're going to bring in a different perspective, right? Whether they're from a different sales company, and they're going to be able to understand like, hey, this is what we did here. It worked. Let's try this. Next thing you know, you're changing your playbook. You're making more sales, right? You got them promoted to a manager, and then overall that sales team is crushing it. There's so much opportunity with infusing that outside talent. Also, you're able to shake things up, and it gets other salespeople like, oh crap, this person's doing a really good job. I got to pick my butt up as well.
Perfect, 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 right? You need to avoid that tempest of, we made some poor hires, we hired too quick, we only hire from within, and now we're not getting that perspective. I loved how you said that. It's not easy. I'm not saying never promote from within. I'm not saying always outside talent, but that outside talent, whether it's hiring from, hiring someone that you didn't promote from within, or working with folks at Pitch Lab. There's different ways to get that outside perspective, and you want to get that outside perspective, especially when you're growing fast, to get out of that echo chamber. That's it. 5 tips, scaling a distributed sales team. These are the pitfalls, and hope this helps. Zach, what should they do if they like this video?
They should reach out to Jay Mays and Pitch Lab Sales Consulting and Training.
I love it. Thank you for the promotion. Also, what's even easier than that, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.